how did you end up in Phong Nha of all places?
I met my wife when I was working in just north of Da Nang with some construction work. About a year later, she brought me here to meet the family, and she was, oh, we'll stay a few days and see my family. We're not staying here. And I was like, I spent my whole life looking for this. She said, I spent my whole life trying to get out of here.
I really hope you're enjoying this mini-series of a Vietnam podcast where we are exploring all of Vietnam from top to bottom, and it's brought to you by Explore. They are a leader in small group travel since 1981. What started with just a few tools and a 4-page brochure has grown into more than 400 authentic journeys worldwide. With Explore, you can experience Vietnam in a small, intimate group guided by locals, making your adventure both hassle-free and filled with those spontaneous moments that make travel unforgettable. Are you ready to explore Vietnam? Then visit exploreworldwide.com and start planning your next adventure to Vietnam today and join me in this amazing country. Welcome to a special episode of a Vietnam podcast with me, your host, Neil Mackay. I've been in Vietnam since 2016 here with my wife, Adri. We came here just for a very, very short time, fell in love with the place and couldn't leave. And my guest today has I think a similar story. I started this podcast just as a hobby to share stories of people connected to Vietnam and share about this amazing country. We're going to explore the Phong Nha National Park region today. I'm really excited. I've been up here for 8 days now. This is actually the first time we've ever done an in-person off-site interview on a Vietnam podcast. So I'm really excited about that. We're actually about 6 hours behind schedule because my guest today has been so busy. So if he and I look tired, then please forgive us. But this is my last night in Phong Nha, and I insisted that he had to do this interview before he went to bed tonight because we're leaving first thing tomorrow morning. So this episode today, we're going to be talking about the Phong Nha National Park and the region around here and how beautiful it is. And as I said, Adrian and I have been here for about a week now. We are obsessed already in just that short time, and we are definitely going to be back. My guest has been here for 18 years now, so obviously has a massive passion for the region, and he has been instrumental in helping the tourism industry grow here and helping the local people flourish as well, which I have seen firsthand as well, the difference it has made to local people. He is the husband of the owner of the Phong Nha farmstay, which we are here at right now, and the Victory Road Villas, which is in the Phong Nha town as well. And he is massively passionate about tourism and sustainable tourism and helping the local people here in Phong Nha. So I am really, really excited to interview today on a Vietnam podcast, Ben Mitchell. Ben, thank you so much for agreeing to do this. I've strong-armed you, I've made you do it, but thank you so much.
All right, thanks, Neil. Yeah, so my wife and I have been doing tourism here now for we've had this business here for over 14 years. We started off with some backpackers riding motorbikes through, and they would stop and sleep at my wife's parents' place. And that started to get too busy, and her father was like, you know, how about your husband and all his friends go and find somewhere else to hang out? And so we built this place, Phong Nha Farmstay, in the village where my wife's family comes from. And yeah, we've sort of been working started off trying to get tourists to come to the area. And nowadays, there's a lot of places to stay and a lot of companies taking people around the park and a lot of different things you can do, a lot of sites opened up, different caves, different activities and things. It's a really good area for like 3 to 4 days. Some people haven't got that much time. You can do a lot of really cool highlights in a day or two. It's a good area.
Let's go back to the beginning. Where are you from and how did you end up in Phong Nha of all places? Because most people end up in Saigon or Hanoi, even maybe Da Nang or Hoi An.
Well, I met my wife when I was working in just north of Da Nang when I came to Vietnam for some construction work. She was running a bar and restaurant in Da Nang, and we'd go there on the weekends. About a year later, she brought me here to meet the family, and she was sort of like, oh, well, we'll stay a few days and see my family. And I was like, wow, you know. She was like, we're not staying here. And I was like, I spent my whole life looking for this. She said, I spent my whole life trying to get out of here. You know, like, so, no, but we, over the next few years, we were bouncing around working in construction. And, you know, we both could see the potential of coming here and trying to do something in the local community. So we 2010, we came back here permanently and built this place and opened it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's so funny because we've just done an episode recently about what's a secret rule for the unwritten rule for expats, and it was from Rochelle Nguyen, and her unwritten rule was that if you're dating a Vietnamese girl and she takes you back home to see her parents, that pretty much means you're engaged.
Probably, yeah. I reckon.
Did you realize that at the time?
No. Well, I know now.
I think she knew. She's like, all right, this is it. But that's beautiful. Your wife is amazing. We've met her here. Vic is just incredible. And I feel like behind any white expat, there's an amazing woman behind them.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Yeah. Wouldn't survive. Yeah, I wouldn't.
So when you first came here, I mean, we're here now. And one of the things we're loving about it is it's untouched almost. So it's untouristed. There's not many tourists about. I've said this before in this podcast, right? I feel really guilty, and I hate to be that person that's like, you know, when we've been to Laos and Thailand and even in Vietnam, I'm like, oh, it would have been so amazing 20 years ago. But that also means 20 years ago, the population was poorer. They had less access to, you know, whatever they have access to, education,
medical,
all of that
transport.
stuff, right? So I hate to be that person that's like, oh, this place would have been so nice 20 years ago. And I feel like this place is the first place I've been to where I can actually say, oh, I got here before it became too touristy. So I'm very conscious of wanting places to not be popular or not be touristy because I know the benefits that it brings to the local population. But this place is incredible. What was it like when you first got here? Because I cannot imagine.
Yeah, it was incredible. Transport was a big problem. There was hardly anyone had a motorbike. So people didn't travel very far. They didn't leave their village very much. Nowadays, everyone's got motorbikes and things are a lot more, you know, economic development is moving a lot quicker. The government's put in little concrete roads through all the villages and things like that, and that speeds things up. It's bridges over rivers. Kids aren't drowning on the way to school now by taking a shortcut across the river. There's a bridge. You know,
that was a problem.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Up, like where you went up to the pub with cold beer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a problem in that valley there every wet season.
So so the way to get to school would be to swim across a river.
Yeah, they'd have to go across the river, and of course they didn't swim, so they'd get into trouble all the time. Yeah. Like that valley itself, as far as roads going up there and things, like for many months of the year, back sort of before 2010, many months of the year, only boats could go up and down that valley. People didn't move up and down the valley because they didn't have motorbikes, and the roads were really bad, and it was just a cow track basically along the side of the river, very muddy. And everyone along that valley had a boat with a motor on the back, and they'd zoom up and down the river and ride over the rapids and stuff. And nowadays, you never see a boat on that river anymore. Like everyone just rides up and down next to the river on a concrete road on both sides of the river. So, things like that. So transportation's changed and access to everything. And I mean, people here used to the men only wore NBA army uniforms, NBA uniforms for the North. Like they only dressed in uniforms. The menswear section at the market was only army uniforms.
What?
In different little stalls. The women's wear section was ladies sitting in front of their store with a manual sewing machine that they use their feet to drive, and scissors and a tape measure, and behind them big piles of floral material. and the women only wore floral pajamas.
Yeah.
You know, and things like that. Access now things come into the area, things go out of the area. You know, the big road out there that all the tourism comes in and out from the airport and the train station on, that was built in 2006. And even in 2010, you could go into Dong Hoi 45 kilometers and not see another vehicle on that road. It was very, very quiet.
Well, you were mentioning last night, some of your kids, I think, were mentioning about getting stuff delivered online. And I'm not going to lie, I'm so naive. I was like, oh, you can get deliveries here online? Because it does seem so remote that...
Yeah, like in this village, when I came here, there was 2 landline phones.
No.
As far as I know, there's still 2 landline phones.
Well, there's
like,
probably none now. Nobody has a
They
landline
never
phone.
did that segment of development. They just had no phones, and then everyone got mobile phones.
Yeah.
So they didn't do the thing too where you have big shops built down the road. They just went with the mobile phones. They just went straight to Shopee.
Right.
Everything gets bought on a motorbike.
I feel like such an idiot because I think that this stuff wouldn't get delivered here, but you can just get stuff delivered here like usual.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So when you first came here, and well, my first question is, how did you persuade your wife to come back here? Because I think that's so interesting that you're like, I've been looking for this place, and your wife is like, I've been trying to get away.
Well, with my work, we were in, you know, other parts of Southeast Asia. We're in the Middle East. We're in Australia. And then after she was traveling a lot with my work, she could see then that where she was from originally did have a lot of potential for tourism. So, you know, we were talking and like, we should do something back there. And she was like, yeah, we should. Like, I could, you know, after she'd been out and traveled around the world a bit, she realized, you know, it's a bit like The Alchemist.
Yeah.
It's right back where she started. It's where the action was. So she came home and started building it with me, and we working with the local community a lot. Very difficult for her too to work with the local community sometimes. It has been, especially at the beginning. A lot of misunderstandings and a lot of things like a lot of people's expectations, you know, and short-term agendas and things that you have to deal with at the beginning.
So why did you both decide we're going to focus on sustainable tourism?
I don't think there was ever a conscious decision to do that. That's just what worked for us, and it worked for us as, you know, the way we felt things should be. So, yeah.
And was it difficult for her then coming back? Was she seen as an outsider or like as a part of the community?
Oh, I don't think so, because, I mean, it was, you know, basically it was a team. It was me and her 2 brothers who'd never really left the area for much. So, you know, it's a local business. I mean, I'm here helping, but it's in no way my business.
Yeah. So when you came here and you visited, and I'm looking over here because you can't see, but in the distance there's just beautiful karst limestone karsts everywhere. It's just stunning. And Phong Nha is known for its caves, and if you don't know already, the largest cave in the world is here in Phong Nha, called Son Doong cave, which was found when, like, just like the other day.
Effectively, the first people went into it in 2009.
That's mental.
Yeah.
2009.
A lot of tourists say to me, like, oh, yeah, right, you know, but no, yeah, like, really.
Crazy,
really,
right?
Yeah.
But now you can understand it. So we've been out here and we follow these trails and these guides. So we went to Paradise Cave and there's all these concrete tracks and you follow it and it's easy to find. But afterwards, we looked around at the dense jungle and we're like, how did somebody find this? Like, you can imagine how it would be so difficult because it's just this small entrance.
There's a group of British cavers.
Right.
And they first came to the area in 1990. They've been exploring, discovering, mapping.
Right.
All the caves in the area. Because you got to imagine hunters would see a cave entrance and that'd be okay, but they didn't have torches. They
Yeah.
weren't cave explorers. The local people who lived here, they might go into the cave to avoid a
Just the
thunderstorm
entrance.
or something like that,
Right.
or to camp in there, you know. But you have to be careful because there might be a tiger in there, you know. And truly, like that's a real thing, you know.
And
Back-
snakes and spiders. And
Around the entrance of the cave, there's always some snakes hanging there because they'll catch the bats as they come in and out and stuff. So,
it's not
you know,
so
the entrance
simple.
of the cave is a very interesting area. It's, you know, the
Yeah.
end of the cave and the outside world meet there, and you know, you might have, you know, it's a very interesting place. That first part of the cave, and the locals might use that, but they didn't go into the caves and explore them and things. But the Brits did, and the Brits came here, and the Brits worked with the local people to find caves a lot. They also went and found them themselves. But caves like Paradise Cave, you know, that's discovered by the British cavers, with locals showing them the entrance to caves, and then they go through and find them and find other exits and entrances and how it all links up. And it turns out that Paradise Cave is discovered by the British Cavers Association. It's the longest cave in Vietnam. It's the Vom Cave system. You know, and Paradise Cave branch of it's about 7 kilometers long, coming off the Vom Cave system. And the British cavers, you know, Howard Limbert, Deb Limbert, Adam Spillane, these people have been coming here for many, many years. And then when tourism started here, a local guy called Joar he started the company Oxalis, and he employed these British cavers, professionals who really knew what they were doing, to come and work as a safety role and helping to manage and train all the local staff to do the tourism. Yeah. So.
And what's been your involvement in the tourism industry and helping people access the caves? Because I know you've done a lot with opening up these caves.
From the beginning, I was involved trying to open up cave tourism to the area and working closely with other people as they open their companies to help them develop the cave tourism. You know, trying to get tourists to come to the area and then trying to market the cave tours and things like that. And be involved at the very beginning in sort of explaining to local people what foreign tourists would be wanting to do if they come to the area, because the locals didn't really understand. It's a very different culture.
Yeah.
You know, there's two types of tourism now here in Phong Nha. There's the real adventure tourism where you go out with a specific company as a small group or even a private tour, and you might do overnight or a day trip to a unique and, you know, exclusive area. Then there's the show caves, and some of the really big caves have been turned into caves where they can manage a lot of people on a busy summer's day. If you come outside July and August, you might find that those big show caves don't have many people really visiting them anyway. But the weekends in July and August are very busy.
We just had that.
Well, even May, June, July, August sort of thing with the domestic tourism now post-COVID. We've seen a huge increase in domestic tourism in the summer. The Vietnamese really are getting out and enjoying their own country nowadays in comparison to what was happening before COVID with the domestic market. The domestic market really supported the tourism industry during COVID, and it just exploded. And nowadays, the summers are very busy here in Phong Nha with domestic tourism. Most of it stays in the big hotels in Dong Hoi and comes out and sees the show caves during the day. Yeah.
What do you mean by show cave?
The Paradise Cave, the Phong Nha Cave, the Dark Cave, those caves that are made for a lot of tourists to come and visit. So the companies who manage those caves just sell tickets to lots of people, whereas other caves, like all the ones that Oxalis visit, Jungle Boss, Greenland, those companies, they have exclusive rights to caves and areas in the province, both in the park and outside the park, and they have more of an exclusive style of tourism. where it's only for smaller groups to go and visit areas
And we
and
heard that
caves.
one of the reasons why they have like exclusive rights to the cave is they have more ownership over it, like the group that runs it. So if there's trash left, it's their group that left the trash. If anything goes wrong, it's them. You can't blame anyone else.
Yeah.
Is that true? And
Well, they've got to take responsibility
Yeah.
for the cave that they are managing,
Mm.
or the area of the park or whatever area it is. It's a little bit different concept to what most Western countries would have, but yeah, they're responsible. So whether it's a show cave or a more exclusive area, they're responsible for how that's managed.
How would you describe these caves? Because as we've been going around, I'm running out of adjectives because I just keep using like, this is stunning, it's incredible, it's amazing, it's epic.
Yeah, I'm always hearing, well, I wish I hadn't bothered visiting caves anywhere else, whether it
Really?
be Vietnam or at home. You know, like people are like, well, we won't bother visiting caves when we go home again, because the caves here are pretty spectacular and pretty unique. They're big and they're full of adventure. Like there's a lot going on in them. You know, there's no crawling through tight spaces for hours and stuff. You really, a lot of the caves that you visit here, you're either walking through them or you're just swimming down a river, down a cave, or in a boat down a cave river. You know, they are a lot bigger and a lot more accessible, and so many in a small area. The jungle is quite unique. The area's got a lot of biodiversity. It's got the highest primate diversity in Southeast Asia. A lot of other things about the biodiversity. With the climate here, you know, southern Vietnam gets 2 seasons, the wet and the dry. North Vietnam sort of gets 4 seasons, like summer, autumn, winter, and spring. Here we get 6 seasons, so we get all of those seasons together. And we've got plants and animals that are endemic to the north, plants and animals from the south. Plus, we've got plants and animals that are only found here. You know, so it's got a very high biodiversity for plants and animals. The history of the area is really interesting. You know, this area has always lied between, you know, it's always a controversial area. If you go back to the Cham Empire, the Sino-Vietnamese Empire, this area used to change hands between them. The Cham never held it long enough to build their Cham temples and things here, but they did leave a lot of pottery laying around. They did put graffiti in some of the caves. They did knock down stalactites and stalagmites and make altars in the caves for the monks and things. If you go sort of through history, then, you know, the French fought here very, like the French War between 1946 and 1954 was very heavy here. And that was because this is the natural corridor between North and South Vietnam here. This is the thinnest part of the country. And everything has to come through here, like the railway line, the roads, it all has to come straight through this corridor. So the Viet Minh could attack the French transportation routes from the jungles of Phong Nha and then retreat back to them again, you know. And the area was chosen by the Americans to bomb very heavily during the American War because this was a very narrow area again where they could cut off the supply from the north going to the south. So geographically it's affected historically because of those sorts of things. Yeah, the Ho Chi Minh Trail came through here. This was called the staging point of the Ho Chi Minh Trail. So a lot of things came down the coast and came through here to get into the mountains and down to South Vietnam, around the DMZ, over into Laos. The road goes straight over into Laos. The road through Phong Nha. Phong Nha village, the tourism village now, is centered around the Pha Dung Son ferry crossing, which was a ferry crossing for the Ho Chi Minh Trail. And I mean, that's effectively why the town is where it is. So, you know, like it's got a lot, I mean, biodiversity, scenic beauty, geomorphology, history, it's all here.
Being here,
culture. I haven't mentioned culture. The people. Yeah.
Go on. The culture, the people,
the local people. There's huge Catholic populations. There's huge Lung populations, ancestor worship. There's over on the coast, which is only 20-minute drive from where we're sitting now. There's a lot of Buddhists. You know, it's a culturally diverse area as well. In the mountains, there's different minority tribes. There's the Bruvang Q. There's the Rook people. The Rook people, fairly new to the modern world. I mean, they were still living in caves up until very recently. So, you know, they're a minority group that's in the park or northern side of the park. Yeah.
So when you first went to Phong Nha cave, that's lit up, right? That has lights in it right now.
Yeah.
Did it have those when you came?
It had a couple of coloured lights in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And who put them there then?
The tourism had started before I got here, but there wasn't any tourists. I think the Lonely Planet said, "Don't worry about it."
No.
Yeah, it said that it cost too much to get there, and because you had to get out from Dong Hoi, and there was no transport. And it said there's some coloured garish lights with some cigarette butts on the floor. Yeah, and I mean we had to change that. That was fairly important.
Did you get the Lonely Planet back out here and redo it?
I was pretty adamant that they should come out here and have a look, and they did, and they fell in love with the area straight away once they sort of started to have a look around.
So how would you describe the Phong Nha cave? Because it's just, again, I can't think of adjectives like to describe it because it's so incredible.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I mean, all the caves are amazing, and they're all different too. Yeah. And there's some, just even like talking about, you know, in 2 days going around the show caves in the park, you know, like you've got so many different activities going on. You're swimming in caves, you're swimming in turquoise blue rivers, you're swimming under waterfalls, you're visiting caves that you've got to walk through the jungle to get to. You're visiting caves in boats with local people rowing you through the cave. There's a lot of different activities.
Are you now ready to experience the best of Vietnam for yourself? Then check out Explore's A Taste of Vietnam tour. Discover vibrant street food, ancient cities, and natural wonders, including a memorable stop at the Phong Nha cave. This cave is known for its stunning limestone formations and serene river views, and I can confirm it is one of the most amazing sights I've ever seen. Whether it's exploring caves, sampling local flavors, or cruising the Mekong, this 13-day tour has it all. Visit the link in the episode notes to book now and make Vietnam your next adventure. I guarantee you won't be disappointed.
I mean, I believe the best way to see the national park is on a motorbike, and I believe the best way to do that is to hop on the back of a local rider, like community-based tourism, and go around the park with one of the local people taking you around. And we've got a podcast that people can listen to gain information as they go around the park on all the different things they'll see along the way, visiting different sites along the way. You know, when people come and stay with us, we talk to them about what their interests are and what sort of day they're after, and look at the weather and look at what the time of year it is. And then we send them off on an awesome day out with a podcast. Just if it's a couple, they go together. If it's a family group, they can all just stick together and go around the park at 40, you know, Phong Nha at 40 kilometers an hour.
Well, we've been listening to the podcast. It's an amazing, like a guide that tells you what to see, what you're looking at and what to do. So that's a massive recommendation. And I don't know if you can hear or if you can see right now, there is rain all around us. So we are here right now recording in December 27th. And I'm going to be putting out a whole bunch of videos of our trip here because it has been so incredible, but it's been wet and it's been rainy. And we actually today, I don't know if we told you this yet, we were going to go to the dark cave and we chickened out at the last minute because
too cold.
Yeah. So think about the time you want to come here if you're going to visit, because so you told us I think March is the peak, the ideal time, not too hot,
I think end of February all through March. and into April's the best time of year. March being the best.
Yeah, so
normally.
I think
Weather-wise, I think it's great.
so part of the reason we didn't do the dark cave, so we went, we saw the introduction video. It was already raining, we were already cold, and we're like, this is just going to be too cold. But the biggest reason why we didn't do it is because we knew we're going to come back, and we're like, we'll do this when we come back when the weather's better. And so, but then we took the bike around, and you're saying the best thing to do is go around on a bike. That was it. We actually asked ChatGPT what to do, what else could we do. We'd done most of the stuff.
Yeah.
And we just got on the bike and just drove around. And best advice you gave us today as well was, because we'd already done the loop in one direction, and you said do it in the other direction.
Do it any clockwise.
Yeah, and you see it from a totally different perspective. And even in the caves, you see that. We walked through one of the caves one way. Obviously, you can't choose, but you have to then walk back. And being able to see everything from like a different perspective. So today, doing the park, and also the weather had changed. So when we did it the other day, it was a relatively dry day. The clouds were high. Yeah. Today, we couldn't see the top of the casts because the clouds were so low. And we were essentially driving through clouds. And just, I mean, we've done the Hazang loop. We've been to Laos, been to Thailand, and we've fallen in love with this place. It's just incredible.
Yeah, so we'll have to get you back in the spring.
I think that's the plan. And the other thing I wanted to ask about, because I've not seen too much posted about it, but it's the DMZ, and you did mention to me a while ago the Vinmoc tunnels. Yeah, one of the best things you can do.
I think the Vinmoc tunnels is one of the best things a tourist could visit in Vietnam. Like, it's
a big claim because there's so many amazing things to do here.
It's got a lot going on. Like it's historical because it's an underground village built during the American War. The people had to stay there to protect their land from the Americans, so they all went underground. The other thing is its location. It's right on the beach, so the tunnels, you actually go into the tunnels and then you come out on the beach, and then you go in a different entrance and you come out another one, and you're going along the beach as you go in and out of these tunnels.
Are they like the Coochie tunnels, like tiny?
No, like you because they're not built to hide from American soldiers. They're built to hide from bombing. Right. So they're quite big, and you can walk around through them very easily. Yeah. Like I'm not a small person, and I can walk around through the caves no problem at all. Yeah. And you know, so there's a brand new museum there, which has been really well done. It's only a small museum, so it doesn't take you all day to go around, but it does give you a really good feel for what's going on at the tunnels, what they're about, and what they're for, and how they built them, and why they built them. But it's not going to take all day, you know. And the other good thing about it is the Vinmoc tunnels are on the way from somewhere to somewhere. Yeah, and it's a great place to break the trip up with a stop along the way between Hue coming up to Phong Nha, or Phong Nha going down to Hue, or Phong Nha going all the way through to Hoi An, or Hoi An coming all the way up in one day too if you're in a private car. I mean, it's a good spot to stop. Yeah, so for those reasons, I think it's and plus no one goes there.
Oh, well, that's what I was about to say.
No one goes there, like, you know, because everyone goes to the Coo Chi tunnels and they spend a whole day going out. That's Saigon selling that. No one's selling the Vinmoc tunnels, and that's why no one goes there. Not because they're not cool, but because no one's selling them.
Well, our first trip to Vietnam,
they're too far from Hue, they're too far from Hanoi, and no one's selling it. You know.
Our first trip to Vietnam was a typical trip. I think we had about 14, 15 days here. Did the usual Saigon, Mekong Delta. Did we go to Coo Chi tunnels? I can't remember. Hoi An, Da Nang. Didn't go to Hue on that first trip. Then went up to Hanoi, got to Sapa. We literally saw, not the whole country, but we went from the top to the bottom. I don't ever remember the Vinmoc tunnels ever being mentioned. I don't even think in the 9 years we've been here, I've really heard the Vinmoc tunnels being mentioned, or the DMZ. Or Phong Nha, like we were talking about today. We don't even think we'd heard of Phong Nha caves until maybe a couple of years ago. Yeah. So it's cool that they are off the beaten track. And if you do want to come to Vietnam, this country, I'm amazed by it. Like even this trip, I'm just like, this country is so beautiful. And I've been to so many places.
Yeah, this happens to me every time I travel in Vietnam.
Yeah. You forget, because I live in Saigon as well. I live in a high rise. I live in the big city. Yeah. You forget that this stuff exists. So I want to check the Vin Moc tunnels out. And then I don't actually know anything about the DMZ.
Yeah, the DMZ is a very interesting place. I mean, a lot of people say, "Oh, we're not going to Hawaii. We were told that it's not worth visiting." You know, well, for that, I mean, Hawaii is worth visiting. It's an amazing town. But even if it was only worth visiting because if you were coming north out of Hoi An, there's a whole amazing day trip between Hoi An and Hawaii, or Hoi An if you're heading south. There's another interesting day where you can get a private car from Hawaii up to the DMZ and stop at the Benhai River Museum, like where the bridge is, the old reunification bridge between North and South Vietnam. Stop there for half an hour, have a look at the museum, take a photo on the bridge, whatever, North-South Vietnam border. Then come up to the Vin Moc tunnels and spend about 45 minutes exploring the tunnels. And then you're up to Phong Nha and, late lunch in Phong Nha, vice versa if you're going south. From Phong Nha, you'd stop Vin Moc tunnels, Benhai River Museum. You'd be in Hue for a late lunch and maybe see the Citadel in the afternoon. The following day, I'd recommend getting a motorbike tour from Hue to Hoi An, or vice versa if you're coming north.
Well, I think that's where we're going to come back and
yeah. Well, no, just a one-day motorbike tour Hue to Hoi An or Hoi An to Hue is great. But if you want to do this central area properly, I think the 2-day motorbike tour from Hue up to Vin Moc tunnels, over to Khe Sanh, and then up the Ho Chi Minh Trail west, all the way up to Phong Nha. Over 2 days, staying overnight in Khe Sanh. An amazing couple of days. And again, you're on the way to somewhere. You're not going up and then having to come back to, it's a great couple of days.
And so
a great cross section of central Vietnam too.
What is the DMZ though? Like, what is in it?
The DMZ.
Yeah, like what do you see when you go there? Like, I literally don't know.
If you go from Phong Nha heading south to Khe Sanh, it's jungle-clad mountain passes for all day through some minority villages along the way.
There's not something specifically.
It is the most remote part of the country.
Oh, okay.
As well, like you go for an hour without seeing another human. It's very hard to do that in Vietnam.
Yeah.
But you will on that road.
Oh, okay.
And then you'll stay in Khe Sanh. You'll go and see the Khe Sanh combat base, which is where there was a big battle during the American War, and there's now a big museum there on the old airstrip, and it's a very interesting place. What you will also see is the real Vietnam, like not the developed tourism Vietnam out that way. And then the next day, I would suggest that motorbike tour that you do with the easy riders. You'd go from Khe Sanh across the country, following Highway 9, stopping at different sites along the way, maybe some cemeteries, battlegrounds, and then you go to the Vin Moc tunnels, and then you go down through the fishing villages, through the coast of ghosts. It's all these temples all the way down the coast.
Coast of ghosts.
Yeah, like all graves, and all multicolored and just amazing architecture for about 80 kilometers all the way down the coast, from fishing villages and graveyards. Yeah, and then you're into Hue down at the bottom there. So that's over 2 days. A great motorbike tour. Also, 1 day from Hue to Hoi An, as I say.
Yeah.
Stopping at Elephant Springs, waterfalls, swimming holes, temples, fishing villages, Marble Mountain, Hai Van Pass.
Yeah.
It's all there.
Yeah. So you've been here for so long. You've helped so much with the tourism, and tourism is growing. And as I mentioned, it's not over touristed. We don't have any big resorts yet. They may come one day, but it's still the real Vietnam. What difference have you seen that has made to the local people here?
Oh, well, there's a lot of people here have opened their own businesses in tourism. People that work for some of the companies that have opened up with tourism, it's a career path for them, working in either hospitality or as tour guides. Even people who maybe don't have the education to work in certain jobs, there's jobs like motorbike riders around the park. A big one's the porters. Some of the greatest hunters and timber cutters on the planet are not hunting and timber cutting now. They're working as porters, carrying all the equipment for the trekking tours and things.
When we were on the tour, the guy actually, I thought it was amazing that he said this, because the porters are carrying some of our luggage, they're carrying all the food and everything. And he said, I don't want you to feel bad about the porters carrying everything. For one, that's their job. Two, they don't carry more than 30 kgs. And three, these guys used to work in the jungle. The jungle men, they used to carry logs up to 60 kgs. So what they're doing now
it's a light load.
Yeah. Which is crazy.
And they love it. They really enjoy their work, and it's sustainable.
Yeah.
And that's a big key point, is the sustainability of it, which is another thing about the people who take you around the national park on the back of their motorbikes. They're used to carrying half a ton of timber, and that sounds like an exaggeration, but it's real. They're used to carrying like big loads on their motorbike and that, and they're getting their day's wages for taking a tourist around the park and stopping at places for 2 or 3 hours at each place, while the customer goes off and does the trip. They sit around and gossip, have a yak with the other ones, and we learn a lot when they get back each afternoon about what's happening all around the place, because they're the carriers of information.
Well, my last question is, you said about the local people had never met foreigners before. What is the local people's perceptions of foreigners, of tourists?
I think anyone that's working in tourism obviously appreciates the foreign tourists coming and going. A lot of local people, I think they're getting used to us a bit now. I think at the beginning it was very, very odd. You'd be stared at, and
not to mention the cultural of the American war, as you mentioned, and foreign invaders.
Yeah. That was never such a drama here that people would be upset at foreigners generally. No, I mean in conversation that comes up, but not that people would be rude. I think little kids, little boys can be a problem anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Like, maybe throwing a bit of buffalo shit at the tourists is fun, and like running off and stuff like
so
that.
It's funny.
There's been instances of that throughout the last 15 years where we've had to like try and put an end to it.
We just heard from your daughter the day that she had 2 little boys throw rocks at her. And we've experienced...
Little boys can be little boys anywhere in the world.
But I want to see if you have an answer to this, right? So we've experienced this in Hazang, and we've experienced it here as well a little bit. Most of the kids, 99% of the kids that we pass, they're driving to school or from school, they're like, hello, hello, big smiles on their face. But every now and again, and it happened more up in Hazang, a little kid will drive by you and they go, and they give you the finger with a really evil face. And we've had it happen a couple of times here.
Yeah.
And we don't think they have ill intentions. Maybe they do, but where are they learning that from? And it's not all the kids. It's just, or maybe their parents telling them something bad, or they've picked it up from the internet.
I think they might be picking it up off the backpackers riding through on motorbikes themselves.
You think the backpackers are giving them the finger?
That's one of my thoughts on it, because I see a lot of it when I ride anywhere. Like, I take a tour from Saigon to Hanoi.
Yeah.
And
do you get it as well?
You see a lot of it all the way along.
You see it all over Vietnam.
Yeah.
Just random kids give you the finger.
Yeah.
Weird.
And it's funny.
It's
like,
funny.
Like.
Well, Adri said she saw somebody once give the finger, like with a really angry face like this, and then just lit up
and
with
then
a big
they
smile
laugh
and
their head off. Yeah.
Like, yeah.
They're just testing it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Ben. I know I kind of strong-armed you into this. He's had a long, long day, and this was our last chance to do this. Honestly, thank you so much for your hospitality, your family's hospitality. It's been amazing. All your wisdom, all your advice. As I said, we've fallen in love with this place in the time we've been here, and we can't wait to get back. So thank you very much for everything you've done for us, and for what you do for the region. It's incredible. I don't know if I told you, we were at the Phong Nha cave, and we were talking to each other about being at the Phong Nha farm stay, and the woman turned around, she's like, oh, Ben Mitchell, oh, Phong Nha farm stay. Like, she knew who you were. There was somewhere else we were when it was like, oh, you know Ben Mitchell? They're like, yeah, Ben Mitchell. Like, everybody knows who you are. So you've obviously had a massive impact on this area, which is incredible. So thank you for everything.
It's good to get you up here, and I'm glad we've had the opportunity to show you around, and hopefully through the podcast we can get a few more tourists to the area.
Yeah, and not too many, because we don't want
not too many.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of a Vietnam podcast. I really appreciate it. Remember, follow, subscribe, turn on notifications, and leave a review. And the best thing that you can do is share it with someone else who wants to know more about Vietnam, who's passionate about Vietnam as well. And also remember, you can follow us on Instagram and Facebook as well. Send me a message. I always love to hear from you. Thank you so much. And Ben, thank you so much. This has been amazing.
Thanks, mate.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh, God.